and this is what the operator patch sounds like with the rest of the music. Hi guys, SKETI here, welcome to a new tutorial. This time we're going to look at how to make a CHILLWAVE even chord pad sound, a bit like the likes of Home's Resonance and other tracks in that ilk. So let's get to it. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you the chords that I've done first, and I've just basically mimicked Home Resonance just for this specific tutorial. And the chords are F minor, A flat major, C minor, then F minor, B flat minor and A flat major. So that's the chords, and that repeats twice in this setting that I've done. So let's get on to the actual sound design of it. So we're going to do the Serum first, and basically this time I'm just going to show you the patch already built because it's a very simple patch. This is nothing much to it. In the sub we've got the analog sine wave set to the -1 octave and the level brought all the way down to 0, which is then being controlled by the envelope, but I'll get to that in a minute. The next thing is we've got an oscillator A, and that's just a sawtooth wave. Well, it's both of them sawtooth waves. But the first oscillator is set to -1 octave, and the second oscillator is set to 0 octave, just to give that octave spacing. Both with the random setting is set down to 0, so they start from the exact same point. Levels kept exactly the same, but the only difference in oscillator A is I've turned the unison up to 5, the detune down slightly, and the blend down slightly as well, just to give it a bit more width and that chorusy effect. The next thing is I've applied a filter, and I've turned it on for both oscillators A and B and set it to NG low 24. I've set the cutoff starting point at 76 Hz and the fat all the way up and the resonance to 11%, and that's being controlled by this envelope. So let's look at that now. Now the envelope is attached to the level, so it's going from on the sub, which is going from 0 to 100%, and the cutoff level on the filter, which is going up to about, so if it's going from 76 Hertz, it's moving up 51 points. So if you think of 0 100, it's going up 51. And this is the envelope setting, so the attack is 73 milliseconds long, and the decay initial point is 86 milliseconds long. And it also, I've set it so it looks like a little bit like a dome, like so. And if we just listen to this, I'm going to just turn all the effects off for now. So before we touch the effects, this is what that will sound like. Cool. So then I have a macro attached to the decay of this envelope too, and that's going from 86 milliseconds up to 1.12 seconds. And if you imagine this macro, it's set to 22 points in that dial. So from 86 milliseconds as you're drawing it in up to 22. I'm just going to draw in filter envelope on, just write that in for the macro so I know what that macro is called, or what it's doing even. So that's really, in a nutshell, the majority of how this is made. I've kept the polyphony on and I haven't really touched anything else. So it's just two sawtooth waves, an organic analog sine wave, and then the filter, and also this envelope here. Now for the effects, so the first thing that I did was I added the distortion. Now not a lot, just a soft clip, and the drive set to 36%, just to give it a little bit of grit, and that's what this sounds like now. Like I say, not much distortion at all, because this doesn't really want to be distorted at all anyway. Just add a little bit more grit to the sound. Hyperdimension, I've turned the retrig on and set the mix at 17%. I've also turned the dimension on and set the size to 2% and the mix to 32%, and that's just to add some more space. And in previous tutorials you hear what that sounds like, because I use this setting quite a lot. I've then turned the chorus on. I've turned the rate all the way down to 0. I've turned the second delay up to 1.2 milliseconds, the feedback up to 77%, set this, instead of it being a low pass filter to a high pass filter, and set that to 460 Hz, so it's not doing any chorusing in the bottom end at all. And I've set the mix very low as well to 7%. This is what the chorus sounds like fully. So this is there just to add some extra harmonics to the sound, but with that sort of like weird shimmery sound, needed to bring that down quite low in the mix. But the compressor will start to bring that up with the rest of the sound when we turn it on. I've set the compressor to multiband mode. I've set the threshold to, and I found when I was doing this before, yeah, about minus 19 decibels, and the gain to 17.7 decibels. And this is the majority of where this is affecting the sound. I've set the high band to 31% because if that's any higher, it sounds too tinny and trebly. So that's really just it's almost like an EQ setting, taking all of that top end out. I have then set the mid band to 139% just to boost those mids, and the lows I've set to 165% just to boost the lows as well. So this is what that sounds like. Cool. And then I've turned the reverb on as well, set it to the plate setting, kept the size the same, turned the pre-delay down, all the way down. Low cut up, I'm actually going to turn that a little bit higher to 30%, so there's no reverb in the bottom end. High cut to 35%, because obviously I don't want it to be too metallic and shiny, this reverb. I want it to fit the sound. I've set the damp again just to take some of those top frequencies away to 27%, and the width all the way to maximum. And I've set the mix to 35%. So this is what it sounds like with reverb. And I'm going to play this back, but also move this filter envelope just so we can hear what it sounds like as the envelope opens up. Cool. And what we're going to do before I get to the operator is I'm just going to show you the automation that I drew in for this Serum. And I'm just going to copy it because I've already done it in the operator. So I'm just going to copy what we're doing with the operator here because I've set it to a macro. Alright, so let's just bring this first point up. And this won't take too long to do because it duplicates itself. Like so. I'm just drawing points in here. Bring this one down, like so. Actually, what I think I might do is I'll do a cut and I'll show you the automation after the fact, because it's a little bit boring just watching someone draw in a lot of automation points. So yeah, I'll come back in a second. Cool, so this is the automation for that macro. And it's basically just moving through. I sort of tried to imitate home resonance as much as possible. So this is what that envelope sounds like in action. Let's take it from the beginning. Cool. So now onto the operator. So if you don't have Serum, you've just got Ableton Live, you can do all of this with stock plugins. Obviously it'll sound slightly different because different processors, different plugins have different ways of doing things, so it does sound different. So this is the operator. So what we've got is I've set the output mode, instead of FMing, because it's an FM synth, I've set it out to parallel, so none of these oscillators are affecting each other. Now on the first two, as I did in the Serum, I've set them down an octave, so that's coarse tuning to 0.5, and the third octave I've set in coarse tuning to 1. The first oscillator is set as a sine wave, and I set the attack to 73 milliseconds, and the decay to 376 milliseconds, just to replicate what happens in Serum with the sub. I've set the second oscillator to a sawtooth wave, and I've just kept the envelope settings the same, and again for the third oscillator, just to replicate what that first Serum preset that I set up sounded like. And this is what that sounds like so far. I'm just going to turn the filter off as well. And as you can see, this envelope moving, I've just mapped it out to a macro for the filter. So let's have a look at that filter now. So what I've done is I've set the shape to soft and driven it by 4.12 decibels, and then for the attack, which is controlling this filter, I've set it exactly the same settings as the Serum preset. So the attack is 76 milliseconds, the decay is initially set to 86 milliseconds, and I've also done that sort of bell curve, like a dome sweep in for the envelope, and kept the decay at a line as well, because I found that actually sounded a lot more like the Serum patch than if it was curved. I've set the fundamental frequency of the filter to 78 Hz to replicate the Serum patch, and I've also set the envelope to 72%, just to, instead of it going all the way up to 20 kilohertz, it stops at a similar point that the Serum one did. So this is what that sounds like now. Cool. I also turned the spread on for this just to give it some more stereo width, so imagine that like the hyperdimension effects unit in Serum. So that's just set to 36%. Cool. So now on to the effects. So first thing that I added was a saturator to mimic the distortion in Serum, and that's a soft sine wave. Set the dry wet to 13.5%, turn the soft clip on, and 3.94 decibels worth of drive, because I found this is a lot, it distorts far quicker, so I only needed that much drive. I've then added a chorus after that, in the same order that Serum has its effects. I've set the dry wet to 25%. I've set the rate down to 0.03 Hz because it's the lowest it will go, because obviously in Serum I set it to 0 Hz, but it's very similar. Obviously there is some slight movement, so it will sound different. And I've set the amount to 4.37 milliseconds, and the feedback to 55% as well. Actually, I'll probably turn that a little bit higher. I've then used the OTT preset for the multiband compressor that comes with Ableton Live. And again, there's nothing happening in the top band, but I've really driven just turning this up, these two up, the mid and low bands up, so I can really drive that bottom end. I've set the output to -12 decibels because it really started to get loud, but I've kept the amount at 100% this time, unlike my other previous tutorials that you might have seen where I turned that amount down to about 20%. And after it, just to finish off like this Serum patch has, reverb, low cut turned on at 1.48 kilohertz. I have set the diffusion network to a low cut at 244 Hz, the decay time to 2.11 milliseconds, and the dry wet to 57% because I found I needed to set this reverb a little bit higher to mimic the Serum sound, and a glue compressor just to round it off. And I've also controlled the macro, and if you look here, as you can see, with the same amount, well, the same settings that I did with the Serum preset. So this is what that sounds like. And what I'll do is I'll switch between the two so you can hear the difference, and there are differences, but I think the main thing, the reason why, is it comes down to the different sounding chorus that's in Serum and the chorus that I've used attached to this operator. And I think probably what I could do with the Serum, because I am going to drop a preset for this, is I'll probably bring down the distortion and also how much I've boosted the bottom end. So now I've set the low band in the compressor to 159%. So let's hear what that sounds like now. Cool. So that's the operator in the Serum, and obviously it's always good to check stuff against some music. So I've got the drum beat, and I've just added a bass line that's just a pluck bass that I've made in operator. So this is what it sounds like, the Serum with the rest of the music. And this is what the operator patch sounds like with the rest of the music. So there you go guys, a quick way just to make a sort of chill wave sounding chord pad sound. I hope you liked this tutorial. If you did, please drop a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you see more of these tutorials and my videos in future. If you want to drop a comment with any questions or suggestions for future videos, be much appreciated. But anyway guys, I shall see you next time. Bye.
Everybody jump up, come on! Come on! Everybody